super excited to have a chat with this woman today. Her name is Veronica Lee, and she is the founder of Borderless, a company that's helping college students around the world get into their dream universities. Veronica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to chat with you as well, because, I heard a little bit about what you were doing a few weeks ago and was really impressed because, I remember when I was, applying for university, it was such a hassle, but I can only imagine what it would be like to try and apply for an international university. And a lot of the things you're doing are helping people around the world. We're going to get into all that, but what I want to know from you is how did you get into entrepreneurship and fall in love with this problem?
For sure. So I've definitely started with the personal problem. A lot of people say, oh, the best idea comes from solving your own pain point, which is very much the case for me. So my background is very important to what I'm doing. I'm originally from Uzbekistan, beautiful country in Central Asia, was a post-Soviet country, little complicated. But if there's one thing, I also came from a single parent family. So it's me, my mom, I have no siblings. But if there's one thing that my mom told me is to one, learn English.
Hmm.
Um, and we didn't even know if I would ever use it because I studied in Russian. I went to a very local school, but she's like, you gotta learn English because at some point, sometime in the future, it'll be useful. And here we are. She was right.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
another thing, the moment we started talking about education, she would tell me that you should try to expand your boundary a little bit and you should try to go out, which sounded amazing, only wasn't possible because when you are going to local school, where the furthest people go is maybe to university that's not in your neighborhood, but in a different neighborhood, it
Mm.
seemed almost crazy to think of going outside the country. But through a series of circumstances, I ended up at an international high school in Tashkent. It was called Tashkent International School. I was
Hmm.
there in a full scholarship
Mm.
because it actually costed about $20,000 per year.
Wow.
So to us, it was unimaginable. But I was there on a scholarship, and that school had a college counselor. And what's funny is that when you graduate from that high school, you're actually not eligible to go to a local university in Uzbekistan
Mm.
because the curriculum is so different. And
Hmm.
that's why you study in English, you do the IB program. So it is just way too different from a local system. So I was kind of like, oh, I either need to go abroad or I will be left with no degree. So it was very
Mm.
much a desperate situation, to be honest. But because I had a college counselor, he really helped me out to understand the admissions process, to apply, to write the essays. And it was a very long process. It was very painful. But I did end up at NYU Abu Dhabi, which is New York University, but in the UAE, again on a full ride. And when I
Mm.
come there, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. This is amazing. And I realize there's no other people from Uzbekistan in my whole class. And
Mm.
in the history of the whole school, there was just one more guy who's the
Wow.
second ever Uzbek. It's a new school, to be honest. It's not like NYU New York.
Mm.
But, it makes you pause and think. It's like, hey, why am I here? I'm smart, but I'm not that smart,
Mm.
objectively. I didn't
Right.
have like international Olympiads. I didn't have any companies. I was a normal student. And I think pretty quickly you realize that you were just at the right place with the right resources, with the right counselor that most of other people didn't have. And that is the problem that started haunting me 10 years ago because yeah, I was applying to colleges in 2015 and it's been on my mind ever since. And I tried to do a few things. I started with Instagram blogging. And at
Mm.
the time, Instagram was, I mean, I'm sure you know, but when I tell this to kids, they're like, what? It was, you post a square photo and you write a caption, and that's
Yeah.
about all you can do.
Mm.
No stories, no reels, nothing. And then I remember I was like, oh, this is SAT and this is TOEFL and this is your personal statement. And people were like, whoa, we had no idea. This is brand new information because there was just no resources at that point.
Hmm.
So it eventually, I did blogging, I did a bit of consultations, few things here and there, but I never wanted to be an entrepreneur because it just sounded very unfamiliar. And
Mm.
also, I think one thing when you're an international kid, you're also worried about immigration. And so it's
Mm.
not like just graduate to be like, oh, I'm going to be self-employed. You're like, how do I stay? Where do I go? And so I was very set on doing engineering, which was my major.
Mm.
And I graduated, I moved to Japan. I still did engineering. And only a few years ago, I started thinking that, okay, this could actually become a full-time thing.
Hmm.
And here we are. So honestly, I've never aspire to be an entrepreneur. And sometimes I still don't know how I feel about this. but
Oh,
it felt like I have to do it full time in order to actually change the issue. Like
oh,
it's too much of a problem to make it a side gig. I
mm.
really feel like once I work on it all day, every day, it won't be solved. And I weirdly feel like I have to solve it because no one else would. Otherwise, would have already done so. So that's
Right.
kind of the logic here.
Wow, that is quite the story. Honestly, I think that, usually people who want to get into entrepreneurship, they feel something in them that's like pulling them towards it. But yours was the opposite. You're like, oh, I've never had that drive. It's just something that is pulling me towards there, by chance. It's like, oh, I'm really passionate about this problem and this problem needs me because no one else is doing it. That's amazing. What do you think are some of the, I guess, barriers that people go through when they go about applying for scholarships or, like studying abroad programs?
I think it's a very long problem, but the root cause is that people have no references or like they have no role models of other people who've done the same.
Mm,
Because until I went to international school, I did not know a single person who went abroad.
mm,
Like nobody. Also, at that time, we had no social media, or at least I wasn't on social media. So literally, if you ask me, hey, can you name one person who is at overseas university? It's not there. And I
mm,
think because you feel like you've never met anyone, you're like, okay, if no one is doing it, then it must be impossible. So I will not do it. And then you don't take the steps that's necessary to prepare. That's one big issue. Another big issue is that especially if you want a scholarship, admissions is really competitive. So
mm,
you cannot make a last minute decision to, if you're, let's say, about to graduate from your senior year of high school, you're like, oh, I found this university in Canada, let's apply. It's just not going to work because, at least for United States, you apply in the middle of your senior year. Or you can actually apply in November. So we just finished the early, it's called like
mm.
early decision applications.
Yep.
So you apply by November 1st to go next September.
Mm,
One, that's early. And two, you spend about 2 years building your profile because you have to have really amazing extracurricular activities, which, if you want to do something substantial, again, it cannot be last minute effort. Writing essays is a very unique skill. It's very different from writing, even if you are in English speaking environment, it's very different what you do in class versus what you have to do in the college essay. And so what's really upsetting is sometimes people find out about these opportunities in like end of 12th grade or even in the beginning of 12th grade. It's just way too late. Like you
mm,
don't have any tests, you don't have any activities. Even if you pay me a lot of money, there's nothing I can do
hmm.
unless you supposedly donate the building to an Ivy League school and they will happily take it. Apparently there are a few back doors, so if you are an amazing athlete, it could be sped up. But if you're a normal person, unless you start about 2 years before, it's not going to work. And so this timeline is challenging and this like lack of reference points is challenging. And then also the fact that you don't have a school counselor. So like in the US, I don't know, did you go to high school in the
Yeah,
US?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so you guys had a college counselor, right?
Yes, yes.
That's pretty normal. I had one too. But if you go to local school, it's not a thing. There's no such job. And even if there is somebody, maybe like a career counselor, they have no idea how international admissions work. So
Mm,
they're like, hey, like back home, for example, if you want to go to university, you graduate, and then in the summer you take an entrance test. And
mm,
then you get placed into university based on how well you've scored.
I see.
That's about it. You don't care about essays, you don't care about activities, you don't care about choosing a school. You're like, my score will determine my fate. And that's what your counselor knows. So, if you ask them, hey, how do I get into NYU Abu Dhabi? They have no clue. And so
Right.
you're quite alone on a very tight timeline. And thankfully now if you go on the internet, you can find some good resources, or at the same time, many are very questionable. So it's just overall very, very complicated. And I think there's a reason there's a high school counselor job in the US that's just not there for any other country. And so we really want to replace that, but also make people not have to pay like 100K for a private counselor.
Yeah, actually, you bring up a good point about the counselors that we have in the U.S. They're called guidance counselors. So
Right.
basically, we had them. I think I had a guidance counselor. I think it started in middle school all the way up till high school. So they're always there, like trying to help you with your studies, trying to help you with family, like dealing with family issues and all that type of stuff. So they're very useful. I don't think they know too much about study abroad programs. So, because the US
That's a
is,
very good point.
yeah.
Yes, they're actually now having US students coming and say, "Hey, I want to go to UK." I also have no idea how to do that.
Mhm.
So that's really for anyone who wants to go anywhere. It's just you need a little bit of help.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many resources out there. It's all about like pulling all the pieces together, like connecting dots. And if you don't have access to, let's say, resources in your language, like I knew a lot of Vietnamese students when I was in Vietnam who wanted to study in America. But if nothing's in their language or they don't speak good enough English or can't navigate those websites, it's quite hard. And yeah, a lot of them, like English is a main thing for studying abroad. Is that right?
For sure. Yeah, that's something we're still working to solve because we have so our platform could technically be translated to all languages. At the same time, our distribution is only in English
Mm-hmm.
because so I speak Russian, our engineer speaks Arabic, my
Mm-hmm.
co-founder speaks Japanese. But it took so much effort to build out like one channel in English that we are like, if we start doing all these languages, we're just gonna lose momentum and not grow them equally.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lot of hope for AI dubbing, whatever else is out there to reach people.
That's true.
Uh, and I think I just saw like Meta supposedly allows you to dub your videos on Reels.
Oh yeah, it's getting really good. It's getting really good.
Yeah, and yes, there are issues, but overall, I'm excited to be able to communicate to all these high schoolers because, yeah, that's so true. And even for me, I didn't speak English until like 18, because when I was dropped into this American high school, it was the most stressful experience. Like going local school to that high school was a lot more stressful than going overseas.
Oh, really? Why?
That was nothing. Like, I'm sorry, but try going to a school where you don't understand anything.
Mm.
And also you're this awkward teenager. So it was a
Ah,
very much crash course in
that's what
English.
I wanted to ask you is like, a lot of students from abroad come to America and they want to study, but maybe their English is, they take IELTS, they take TOEFL, and they might get a decent score, but is it enough to learn academic topics in a second language? Yeah, how is your
No.
experience and what are some things you're hearing from some of the students about maybe some of their worries about studying abroad?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a difference of studying English as a second language and then studying in English. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a change for me because I was always I knew English and I think I would do well on IELTS. But when you have to speak, I think the very unique part about American education is that it's very discussion based, which was a shock for me. Because back home, you sit in class for 45 minutes, you don't say anything, you just take notes and you go home. But I remember first week in that American high school, it's like, what do you think? What is your opinion? Hey, let's split into groups and let's talk. And that was such a big shift for me that I think it's more of a like skill wise, they're there, but it's more of this confidence of and desire to just talk and to share your opinion. Because it's not just the language, but it's the fact that no one ever asked your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I see students who would get like 8.5 on IELTS, but the moment you ask them, they freeze and they just feel really shy. And I
Mm.
would say accent is another thing. So I had a really strong Russian accent. It was ridiculously strong. And
Mhm.
I was very, very conscious about it because at least in our country, people equate having American accent to how fluent or even how smart you are. And
Mm.
I really feel that in Japan too, where people are so embarrassed of their accent and they just don't want to talk and they try to imitate this American pronunciation. Where I don't know, I think if you have an accent, you speak more than one language, which is cool. So that's something I always try to tell people. And I
Exactly.
love how like, in Singapore, they have their Singaporean English, which is a little bit difficult to understand, at least for me, to be honest. But they're just like, yeah, that's how we speak, and I think it's really cool.
Hmm.
But yes, I would say it's more of change in the system and how you have to write and speak a lot versus just absorbing facts and like taking notes by yourself.
Really great that you brought that up in terms of the learning environment in the US compared to other countries where it's very teacher focused, whereas a lot of, American universities is very student focused for the
Right.
most part. Other than lectures, right? If you're in a like smaller class, then yeah, it's more student focused. I always try to make my lessons very student focused because I want to hear people's opinions. That's what I think one of the things is one of my teaching philosophies is that everyone can learn from everyone in the room, not just the teacher,
Mm,
right? So that's why
for
it's
sure.
so important to share opinions and stuff. But yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, I think that if more and more people from developing countries around the world can get to the US or get to the UK or get to these other things, they can come back with that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And improve their countries. So where are some of the biggest markets or places that you have influence in, or where is most of the demand coming from?
You would not be surprised, but number one is definitely India.
Oh wow, okay, cool.
By stats, there is more China. I think China is leading, but China is such a unique market that we have not been able to enter. Like
Mm,
whatever you do everywhere else, you cannot just expect it to be adopted in China.
right.
And also primarily because we grow through social media, we've never run ads, like everything is organic, but they
Mm,
don't have, Instagram and TikTok in the same way. I heard it's a lot more advanced. People were like, you have no idea what
yeah.
social media is in China. So yeah, there's just something that's not seen. So we don't really have many Chinese students. But yeah,
Mm.
India is definitely first. Then we have, oh my God, I would say Central Asia is definitely one of the top three regions.
Oh wow.
Primarily, I think because I am from there
Mhm.
and I'm not like famous or anything, but because I was one of the very first people who went abroad 10 years ago, and I also started talking about it on the internet.
Mm,
Now a lot of people they don't know who I am, but they're like, "Oh, we heard there's this Uzbek girl at NYU AD and she's doing something." And so I think people tend to find our company,
okay.
and we have a lot of content of Central Asian students. So that's very big. And Latin America is starting to increase in the numbers.
Hmm.
But what's interesting is like Central Asian students, they are very open to going anywhere. So you tell them, hey, there's this university in Hong Kong that gives scholarships. They're there the next month. They are ready. They go to like Turkey is really popular. They go to Europe, and maybe because of location, we are literally in the center. So Asia feels close enough. Europe feels close enough. America, well, it's always been the dream.
Hmm.
For Latin American students, they're a lot more focused on the United States, where if you tell them, hey, you could go to Japan on a max scholarship, they would be like, that's way too far. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, different kind of demographic prefer different destinations. But yeah,
Right.
Latin America, Central Asia, India, and Sub-Saharan Africa is also quite large. But I
Mm,
would say they are a little bit further from actually applying to universities, where I feel like I've never been there, so I don't know how I would love to go in person. But what I'm getting right now is that there is a big awareness gap of generally how admissions work.
yep.
So we've had people who, would think that, oh, if they, like, it's a little funny, but they're like, oh, if I sign up on Borderless, do I get a university admission? It's like,
Uh,
oh, no, it's actually very complicated. You can't expect things to work. And so I think they are still exploring, and a lot of them are using the app, but we don't see as many like successful applications yet. But I
mhm.
know they'll get there. They just need, because it was the same thing in Uzbekistan a few years ago, where people were like, oh, if I have IELTS, can I get into NYU? I'm like,
No,
no,
that's
it'll be a
not gonna
lot
work.
harder than that. Yeah, so I think they just need to, again, see other people going abroad. So we're trying to have a lot of, they're not testimonials, but they're like student generated stories. So we
Okay.
have this part of the platform. And so we really try to feature regions that you would never see otherwise.
Mm.
And I think it'll take a couple of years of
That would also inspire like a lot of people who are in there
exactly.
because we relate to people who are more like us. So if I'm from Nigeria and I see another Nigerian who successfully gets into Harvard or something like that, I'm gonna want to, apply and stuff. So it has a snowball effect, right?
And thankfully so we recently made what we call playlists of these stories. And then we made one that's called like internationals at Ivy League and internationals with full scholarships.
Oh, cool.
There's a lot there are Nigerians, there are Uzbeks, there are Japanese. At this point, we have reached almost everybody. And the way we run it is, I think, pretty smart. We have a little journalism group of high school students, and they
Mm.
interview current college students and they write articles. And so we get free content. These high schoolers get to poke the brain of somebody who went to their dream school and write and have an extracurricular activity. And the person in college gets to help others without doing anything other than talking for 30 minutes.
Mm.
So we found this like cycle that works for everybody. And so we are producing like 3 to 5 articles every single week
Wow.
about schools, admissions, life.
Mm.
We have a lot about Japan, a lot about US. That's still the biggest chunk, but we're trying to
Right.
expand as possible.
What's the second like other than the US as being popularity probably the most, like the bulk of your business, where's the next most popular place to study abroad?
It's definitely so it's called the Big Four, and it's the UK, Canada, Australia, and the US.
Mm,
But what's interesting is I think especially this year, it's this empire is really crumbling down
hmm.
because US, there are political visa
Yeah.
issues. Canada and Australia, something happened to their housing. They're like, oh, there's no spots. They're gonna limit. I think Canada said they will literally limit the number of international students coming in. Don't
Okay.
quote me on that, but there's a lot of news. So
Mm,
overall, it's not looking that good.
mm,
And so people are actually looking outwards. And I would say Asia and the Middle East is becoming really popular.
mm,
And then maybe because I went to Abu Dhabi, I feel like a lot of people asking us about Abu Dhabi or Dubai. But
mhm.
what's interesting, there's, NYU Abu Dhabi, there is Canadian University of Dubai, there's Middlesex University in Dubai, there's Heriot Watt. So these are Australian, British, and American universities,
Right.
campuses, the UAE. So you still get kind of American or British education, but it's in different place. It's very international. It could be cheaper than Canada, for example. So it's a
Hmm.
very interesting spot. And then Asia, I think people are they're very curious, but it's still a little bit unclear because I mean, sometimes if you look at the Japanese university website, you're like, it doesn't make sense to me either. Like, it's just very complicated. So we see a lot of interest, but again, I think it'll take a little bit of time for people to get more comfortable and to start.
Mm,
Like when your friend goes, you're like, hey, are you alive? Like, are you having
yeah.
fun? If you are, then I'll come the next year too.
So for like the big four, right? I'm trying to understand in terms of those countries in particular, is their admission process very similar or like is it drastically different depending on the country that you're going to? And
It's
like let's say you have multiple universities in that country that people are interested in, is it different from each university? And how do you like maintain all that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So generally, it's quite similar within the country,
Okay.
unless you're talking about very elite universities. So in the UK, let's say Oxbridge, which is Oxford and Cambridge, that would
Hmm.
be quite different. Even though you do use the same application platform, like the expectation and sometimes extra tests are make it feel like it's a very different animal. Same in the US, we all use Common App or Coalition App. But if you want to go to Ivy League, like the expectation is so much different where
Hmm.
it's the quadruple the work. But generally, within the country, it would be similar-ish application process in the sense that the requirements tend to be the same. Uh, Between the countries, it's very different. So, for example, in the UK, there is no space for extracurricular activities. While in
Oh,
the US, you have 10 slots. So you're supposed to be doing 10 like sustained extracurricular activities, show these different qualities, do research and internships and passion projects. UK, of course, it's great and you did it and you could mention it in your essay, but there's no space.
uh,
So it's quite different. I would say definitely, I mean, some people will come at me for that, but I would say US is the most difficult
I
in the
see.
sense where, again, you cannot start too late and you have to be doing multiple things where your grades have to be up and then you have to do the SAT and ACT and then you have to do really good essays and then really good extracurriculars and also show demonstrated interest. It's the whole thing.
Mm.
Where for Canada, typically if you have really good grades, if you've done well in your English proficiency, it's not like you'll get in everywhere, but you have a pretty
You have a
reasonable
chance.
chance.
Yeah, you have a chance.
Yeah. But also what's very unique about the US is that they are the most expensive, but they also have the most financial aid.
Okay.
You can actually go to Harvard for free. Like
Hmm.
anyone who's listening, if you don't have money, you can go to Harvard. Like this is not a clickbait. You can go to Harvard for free. You can
Wow.
go to Stanford for free. You can go to NYU for free, which is incredible. But you cannot go to McGill in Canada for free.
Mhm.
That's not an option. And so, yeah, there's so many different unique sides about each country. I never say, this one is better, this one is not, but depending on where you come from, what you want to do, you might feel more aligned with a certain country. But
Mm.
because it's so complicated, this is actually the vision for Borderless, is where we're trying to centralize everything, where you're working on your application or platform, and then you can apply anywhere from that one place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because when I was applying, I applied to US, Canada, Netherlands, and I was gonna apply to Russia had I not gotten in because the deadline was later, but that was my like safety option because you
Mhm.
never know what's gonna happen. And like my co-founder, he applied to Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, US, and like Abu Dhabi. And so doing only US is really hard. And then if you want to do multiple, it's 10 times harder. So we're actually trying to bring everything to one place, and centralize things that you don't have to refill your GPA like 20 different times in 20 different forms.
It's really useful. I remember applying
Yeah.
myself, and that was many years ago, but that was a pain, right? All the paper you need to fill out and everything, it's
It's
crazy.
hard. It's hard. And sometimes it just doesn't make sense because, for example, in the US, they ask you what's your cumulative GPA.
Uh,
And like maybe for you it's simple, but for many people they're like, what is a GPA? Like we don't have GPA. That's not a thing. We have
yeah,
a mark out of 20, but
right.
you know, GPAs they're like it should be out of 4.0, what's cumulative, how many years. So there's so many of these small things that just don't make any sense if you are an overseas student. And so even our platform, we don't ask you what's your cumulative GPA. We're like, hey, what grade did you get in grade 10? And they're like, hey, I got 38 out of 40. And like on our side, we're able to interpret that and see if
Okay, that's
connect.
really valuable. Really,
Yeah.
really valuable stuff.
Thank
I
you.
actually wanted to go back and talk about those extracurricular activities because those are things that, people have no idea. They could range from like volunteering to like doing some sports club or something. What are the best extracurricular activities that people should be doing now, like in high school, to prepare for college? What are some of the ones that you've seen have gotten people into Ivy Leagues or gotten into the dream school?
Yeah, this will be a very vague answer, but honestly, it's the ones that you feel passionate about
Oh,
because it's such a big range. You know, I've seen people do gardening.
okay.
You'd be like, what? But I've seen people, I think there was this girl in Ethiopia, and then she lived with her grandparent, and he had a garden, and then she would do that. She would study all about the different plants and flowers, and she would try to take care of them. And she wrote a beautiful essay about that experience. And that
Oh,
was the most interesting thing I've read in a while. And I'm sorry, it was a lot more interesting than people who interned at some prestigious company or who won some Olympiad. I'm sorry, I was like, this is so interesting, and I would love to learn more. And to be honest, I don't know if she got into IV, but she definitely got into a very good university.
that's
And
good.
so yeah, but you know, maybe you are passionate about coding, and so you could create something by yourself. It's truly, I would say there are criteria for a very good activity, and typically it's something that you should be doing for a pretty long time because if you spend 2 months on it, unlikely how long? Maybe at least a year.
Hmm. What do kids in high school do a lot of? They spend many, many hours every single day doing playing video games. Does that count?
Yeah, it could. Okay, I would say don't put the actual active video game,
Okay.
but you know, let's do like a little exercise. Let's say you're playing game, and then you're like, you want to make it into activity. Then I would ask a person, okay, what kind of games do you play? Is there any common theme? And then, oh, maybe these are logic games. It's like, okay, can you take that and can you code? And if you can't, how about you create your own game that
Mm,
solves a problem that you're seeing? So maybe, you know, for me, I did engineering and I'm like, hey, not enough girls are interested in STEM. So what if you make a fun game where that appeals to the girls, but also teaching you math or science concepts? And then you make your own game. That could become an activity.
okay.
Or maybe there is an amazing game that's available in Japan and you want to bring it to your own country and you contact the developers and you're trying to dub that game into your language and that way you build some kind of business relationship. So you know, I think it's always, I guess the common theme is like how can that be useful to others?
Okay.
Not be like a very selfish activity, but it's what is it? And I've seen somebody like a few years ago is they would translate manga from Japanese to,
Oh, that's
I
cool.
don't remember, but like a very niche, like not Russian, but like a very kind of language that's spoken by very few people. It was a small country
Hmm.
and they would translate that because they're like, hey, I love manga. Nobody around me can read manga. That sucks. I can't discuss it. But hey, let's make it accessible. And
Hmm.
so, you know, and it was very impressive. So I truly think it's about what do you enjoy and then how can you make it useful for others? And how can you also show that you're like you have that in you, like you're hustling, you know, you're creative, you're doing things.
That's it right there. It's like showing the soft skills almost. Like, can you survive on your own, right? Are you do you have self-efficacy? Are you independent in terms of like being able to figure things out on your own. I think that's what they're looking for. Like also activities outside of school that you can maybe bond with people on an American
Yeah,
campus, right? They don't want you to be
yeah,
alone. They want you to interact with the community and eventually build something that more people want, which
yeah.
is good.
And these people would make amazing founders because
Yes,
I'm like
exactly.
literally have a mini startup, and if I in the future when I'm, rich and famous, I would invest in you because people are amazing.
Yeah, you're constantly like talking to people all over the world. Like some of the brightest minds, right? These are kids that are in Gen Z, right? Gen Z type
Yeah.
individuals who are all growing up into this
Basically Gen
world.
Z, I
Yes.
think.
Yes, exactly.
I'm like on the edge of I don't feel Gen Z, but
Yeah, you're right at the
I
edge, right?
try to.
Almost. You're
I
right at
think
the
I can relate to them. Yeah.
Exactly. So all these people, right? They're all from all over the world really motivated to learn and to expand their mindset, expand their knowledge. But with the age of AI, right? It's complicating things a bit more. One of the things that I've seen and a lot of industry experts have seen is that companies are no longer hiring junior people or they're starting to, dwindle down on that. When you see people at this stage who are not only choosing their career but choosing their major, right? What are some things that you've seen in terms of, I don't know, maybe their mindset or how are they approaching the college admissions right now?
I would say they're definitely flexible, and I think the mindset that I at least try to encourage the students is that you will be fine regardless of where you go, because it's if you're so smart and so driven, you should succeed anywhere. Like I should
Mhm.
be able to put you at any random school and you should be able to do something with those opportunities in that community. And so I think people who are like, hey, I am ambitious, I would love to go to an IB, but I do know if let's say I don't get aid and I have to stay here, I'm gonna make impact here and I'm gonna find a way to do something bigger. So I think that's definitely like having the belief in yourself and also not attaching not like your self-worth, but I guess no, not attach your self-worth to the school because
Mm.
that can be a very toxic mindset sometimes where people are like, oh, if the school rejects me, like I'm done, my life is over.
Mhm.
And I see this a lot, I get it, but it's not a healthy mindset. So yeah, being very flexible, being adaptable, and also definitely wanting to work in, like as you were saying, collaborate, like wanting to work with people. I really
Mm.
think it's going to be increasingly important because as a one person, you can do a lot, but I think as we're moving forward, the problems are very complicated.
Yeah.
And it's probably you wouldn't be able to solve it as one person because again, somebody would have already done so. So I really think when these guys and like all of us as we're moving in the future, whatever problems are left, they're gonna be extremely complicated and we will have to work with other people. And so having that sense of yeah, how do I collaborate? How do I delegate? How do I take ownership? But not
Mhm.
step over people. I think that's very important to cultivate from beginning.
You know what's the problem? They don't teach that in school, do they?
They really don't.
They don't,
Yeah.
there's no class on how to have better teamwork, not even how to learn. I think that's one of the things that I've learned as an adult is like how to learn better. And like that should be taught at the earliest ages, but it's not. It's in like simple things like communication. Obviously, there's communication majors, but not in the sense of one-to-one communication, how to communicate in a team, how to delegate tasks, like you said. I think it's very challenging, and some people learn the hard way. Now, what I'm worried about is that there won't be any opportunities for some of these junior people coming out of high school to get into a company and learn these skills because
Mm,
they're not going to be hired. So one of the things I said a couple times is they should do more projects or freelance
yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
after school. And I think, like you said just now, is teaming up with people and seeing if they can maybe form some sort of freelance, like, I don't know, like group or something or like a make their own startup, right? I think this is a blessing in disguise in terms of maybe more entrepreneurship. What do you think?
Okay, yeah, for sure. And I think it's so fun because people are like,
Yes.
oh, why am I learning these equations? Will I ever need them? Well, here's another opportunity to do something that's actually
Yeah.
more real life applicable. So
Hmm.
yeah, no, for sure. And I think I do see the desire in young people now. Also, I think in general, just entrepreneurship became a little bit more popular. I
Hmm.
think when I was in high school, it was like, what? Why would you quit your job to be broke and to work in your room? Like it was very unattractive, I would say, which maybe contributed to the fact that I never wanted to do it until a few years ago. But now maybe it's even too glamorized where it's like, oh, that's a people life. But yeah, no, I see a lot more people interested in entrepreneurship, and they understand they can't go and like raise money when they're 16, but they're like, hey, I do see a problem in my immediate community and have some friends, like what can we do? And
Mm.
yeah, it's I think the best part of like they don't do it for the admissions, but eventually when we discuss like their essays or where at the end, I asked them what was the favorite part, they would always say it's some kind of independent project they did with friends.
Oh,
And
that's
also
good.
if they yield some results and they can write about it, that tends to be really fun.
What about social media? So you'll see a lot of people, maybe, Gen Z or younger, right? They're always on social media, and a lot of them are becoming creators. Some of them have a huge following. They're really famous. Some of them don't even need to go to college anymore because they're bringing in like millions and millions of dollars. And you see like people like, for example, I Show Speed, his channel, and how
Right.
how he blew up like crazy, right? A lot of people are
Yeah.
trying to follow in that suit. Um, do you think college in this day and age is actually necessary? Or, I mean, can people build a, successful business without going to college?
So is it necessary? Definitely not. But I would say in the context of international students, it's often not so much just about education, but it's so certain upward mobility.
Hmm.
I think you know what I
Okay.
mean? Like you go, like I went from Tashkent, Uzbekistan to NYU grad who can then live in Japan. And it's
Mhm.
really funny because if you look at visas, you know how in Japan they did launch this new visa?
Yep.
I don't remember what it's called, but it's if you graduated from like top 30 universities, you can get that visa.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's called. We were checking our engineer. He's from Egypt, very bad passport, but he went to UPenn, and like UPenn was on the list.
Mm. There you
And
go.
it's, if you go to UPenn, it's a lot easier to come to Japan, and you can get it's like a 6 months to 1 year residency,
Oh, wow.
whatever. It's a very new visa. And then in the UK, I think 3 years ago, they launched something that's called high potential individual visa. They also have a list of top schools where if
Mm.
you went to one of those, you can get a visa. And so to me, I really see it as like more than just education. It's for you, like truly a way for you to have quote unquote better life, but at least life where you can like fulfill your potential more.
Yeah, I
And
think I agree slightly with what you're saying. I think that having a degree itself opens up so many doors. Like if you're
Mhm.
trying to get a job, one of the main requirements, having a degree. Visas,
Right.
you must have a degree, right? And stuff like that. It really is good. But a lot of the things I learned personally in business, I've done after
Yeah,
university,
business
right?
is yeah. I mean, I watched the YC Startup School and I attribute a lot to what I know from that YouTube channel.
Exactly.
But I
Exactly.
think the cool thing about college is you can find a co-founder.
Yes, that's
Like
true.
I met
That's
my co-founder in college,
okay.
it's
Good.
in class.
Yeah.
And that's a common story for a lot of people. And even, now like when we post a job, we have a lot of people from our school apply.
Yep.
So I think that might be good. But you definitely don't have to go to college. But I would really say social media. I don't know. I'm a lot on social media. Like I actually post at least 2 videos or pieces of content every single day. That's how we grow. So I
Mm-hmm.
love social media. I see a lot of potential here. But I think there's also a trap of this instant gratification where you think, oh, the moment I go viral, my life will change. But like that's just not true unless you have the skill set or like, people who go really viral in the beginning, they tend to lose that because they don't have the system, they don't have the skills, they don't have even the reason for people to stay. Because
Mm.
like when you go viral, a lot of new audience comes, and they go to your profile and you're not consistent, you're not interesting, you don't have a story to tell, then they leave. And so I
Mm.
actually think it's not good to go viral in the beginning. And you should maybe slowly grow and you should find your niche and you should find like why am I even on social? Like are you just trying to get views or do you have a message?
Right.
And I think because social media feels like such a low barrier to entry, it's almost like, oh, anyone can become famous and make a lot of money. Like that's not really true. You could have that for a week, but it's not sustainable. And that's why I think really massive creators, like they are a business, they are entrepreneurs, they're creators, they are founders because there's this whole like it's a lot of effort to maintain that and to stay relevant.
Hmm.
So I just want to tell young people like it's not as easy as you think. And if you get
Right.
one video where you're just eating food, that's probably not gonna change your life. But be smart, like try to use that attention for something.
Yeah, so a lot of people who have attention, have followers, have those things, use that to build a community around your business.
Yeah,
Because once
yeah.
you have those people, right, you can sell to them later. A lot of influencers are now teaming up with companies to, for example, like as co-founders. I think what was her name?
Yeah.
The lady from Skims and Kim Kardashian or whatever, the Kardashians, like that's how they build Skims, right?
And
So,
that's so smart because I do think creator industry has been very underlooked.
mm-hmm.
Even I won't call names, but when I had conversations with investors, and they would ask, "Hey, how are you growing?" I would say it's from social. They're like, "Is that a serious distribution channel?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? I get million views a month without paying any money for ads. Like, would you rather me pay Facebook?" They're like, "Oh, I don't know, but like." I think people are just very uncomfortable, and they also I realized people don't think that content creation is a skill.
Yes, it
The
is.
older people, I think they think, oh, you just come out and do whatever, and somehow it works. But I think it's a skill, and I think it's a like it should be a more valued skill because it's
I,
not
I
easy.
wonder, maybe in the future, universities will start offering courses like this if they're not already, like how to be an effective influencer, how to grow an audience on YouTube or a digital audience or something.
Yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense because it's part of like marketing and brand building,
Mm,
like the whole founder-led content. I think is really interesting.
yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, with the age of AI, I think a lot of things are going to change in terms of education. For example, I don't know if you've already seen this or there's some sort of like requirements behind this, but people's personal essays, they can just write them with ChatGPT now, can't they?
oh my God, I fight this
How did,
so
yeah, how do you fight it? Yeah.
crazy. It's really complicated because I started seeing these essays even not even last, I think like 2 years ago, where I think I can tell quite easily because there's definitely common phrases, there's the overuse of the M dash, but I
Hmm.
think fundamentally it's just very shallow where I feel like if I take out your name and I put anyone else's name, the essay would still hold true, which is
Hmm.
very bad, at least in the case of like common app, like personal statements.
Hmm.
But I think people don't believe it because they're like, hey, I put it in this AI detection and it said it's fine. Or you know what people do? I'm so angry about it. But they write essay with ChatGPT and then they go to something called like humanizer. So they paste that there and then it humanizes it and then they paste it to another AI detection check that tells them it sounds like a human. So I'm like, you had AI write it, you put it in another AI to humanize it, and you put it into third AI to check, and now you think the problem has been fixed, which like it hasn't. So that's something that I sometimes have to be like, guys, they will know like they're not dumb admissions officers, so
Yes.
don't. But I think universities are struggling too because even if I've kind of dug into their policies and they're being like, the use of AI is discouraged, but they never say how they would know because I think they don't know either. So
Hmm.
we're still very much in this period of they try to have a policy, but they also realize the technical limitation of knowing. And there were also cases when somebody's, I think, would get rejected because of use of AI, even though that person actually claims they've never used AI, but we don't have the proof. It wasn't my student, but I saw it on the internet. So this year, I'm a little bit scared. I think there'll be a lot of, hey, you used AI. No, you didn't. Or somebody who used AI gets in.
Wow.
And other people are like, hey, he could do it. Why couldn't I do it? So it'll be a mess. I am bracing myself for it, but we need to have this conversation, I think, at a little bit faster pace because every admission season, it's getting stressful, to be honest.
I worry about the situation where um, the students are applying to get in with AI. They get in, then the teacher uses AI to plan their lesson, and then
Yeah.
the students, right, is using AI to do the assignment, and then this teacher is grading the assignment with AI.
Yeah,
What learning is being transferred?
I
What
know. I
what stuff
know.
is actually being transferred to them? And I don't know. I don't know what kind of future we're going to be
I
going into,
know.
right?
Sure.
And now
Yeah.
they're doing all their research with AI. Like if you have a question about something, you just ask AI and it'll, give you the answer. So
Yeah.
what is and sometimes these AI are way more, smart than a lot of these professors. So what is the actual learning that's going on? What knowledge is being transferred?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are such good questions. We definitely talk about it a lot. We also definitely don't have an answer.
Yeah.
But for example, one thing that I've seen somebody talk about is that colleges would start removing essays and they would make it like a video interview or
Oh.
even online, like a video submission,
Mm.
where also you don't know what you will be asked. They will literally come and just generate, like come up with a question on the spot, so you don't have time. I mean, we
Ooh.
have things like Cluey, which supposedly you could cheat even on that. I don't know, but I think something will change, and it
Oh,
should
I like
change.
that though. I like
Admissions
that
has
though.
not, yeah, admissions has not changed in a while.
Speaking test is gonna, I think, be the future of that. I think like what you just
Yeah,
said. That makes
which
total
makes a lot
sense
of
to
sense.
me. Hmm.
Yeah. There is now something, it's called initial view. I don't know what's going on, but you have to pay $275 to do like a 1 minute interview. And it's typically optional. So when students ask, I'm like, I don't think I wanna ask you to do that. Like it sounds unnecessary. But this year I'm excited to see because usually you submit an application and then they tell you how and if they will do an interview. So I'm expecting more colleges to do that, but we will see. But I think admissions, it's kind of been unfair for a long time because now like people are angry that everybody's having good essays because they can use even like on Borderless, you don't write your essay, like this is very much no, but we help you brainstorm. And I
Okay.
think it's doing a better job than a counselor would because usually a counseling session is I ask you, hey, like what happened to you? Hey, let's talk about it. Hey, let's find an essay topic. Now that can be done through our chat. So a lot of people are having really good essays.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole conversation of, oh, now everyone has good essays, it's really hard to stand out.
Mm.
But it was like before you could just pay for it.
Right.
So I think admissions has always been unfair. It was just, oh, if you can hire a private counselor, you would get that. Now it's democratized, which I'm really happy about. And also there were so many cases of admissions counselors writing your essays. I
Mm.
heard it's a very big problem in China.
I bet.
Again, I don't know who and where and how, but I've heard from university representatives that they see so much of that. So I think now it's time for admissions to change and to, adapt to what's happening because yeah, now thankfully we all can have better essays because you can brainstorm and you can put
Exactly.
ideas
Exactly.
out of your
Exactly.
head.
So, we spoke a lot about, the problem that you're solving and a lot about how you're, solving it and like what some of the issues that, these college admissions are going through and AI and how that's affecting it. Is there anything that we didn't speak about that you think we should have spoke about?
No, I think this was very interesting, like education focused conversation. So I really liked it. But yeah, I would just say maybe I didn't say I said that didn't want to be a founder. Like I think
Mm.
that's definitely changed. So
Mm.
I really enjoy this role, even though it's quite painful.
What do you
Um,
enjoy most about it?
okay, it'll sound very cheesy, but you can actually shape the world in the way that you think it should be.
Ooh, I like it.
That makes sense. Like there's something I'm very bothered by. I'm truly very bothered by this gatekeeping, by this inability to go abroad, and I can actually do something about it, which I think is a big privilege because, yeah, I'm sure a lot of other people have really good ideas. They're just not in a position to execute. And I am, and I feel very responsible for it. But I think it's really cool. You wake up, you're like, I can actually do something for the people and I can make a change, which will take time. But I think that at the high level, like that's something that I enjoy the most because I think it's very hard to get that in a company where typically you're not the one making a decision. And sometimes, I mean, a big company, you have no idea whether what you do is even useful,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah, it's true.
So to me, that's the bigger kind of vision. But also day to day, it's good to be in Puerto Rico
Yeah,
for a
that's pretty cool.
program.
Oh
And
yeah,
then,
tell us a little bit about that. What brings you to Puerto Rico? Yeah.
yeah, actually, this year was a year of programs. I went to Egypt for a competition in March. Then from there, I flew to Chile. I did the Startup Chile program. Then I
Wow.
went to Japan, and then now I'm in Puerto Rico. And this is honestly a very fun part of being an entrepreneur. But we've kind of been chasing equity-free grants because we haven't fundraised yet.
Hmm.
And also because we're so global, we don't really have to be in Japan or to be in any particular place.
Dare I say you're borderless?
Yeah, maybe. We did think about this when we were choosing the name. We really didn't want to be like education, like study abroad or something. Because
Hmm.
eventually, like I didn't share it, but eventually we see us becoming like throughout supporting person throughout their lifetime. So that's studying abroad, but then working abroad, doing business abroad, immigrating, taxes, citizenship, PR. So we want to become like all in one ecosystem for anyone to go anywhere. So that's my like
Oh, that's
motive.
very interesting. One of the issues of being an American abroad is taxes. Like just
Yeah.
taxes every year, it's a pain in the ass. So that
Yeah.
could be you can have a huge market there of all the
Yeah. And
American expats for sure.
for sure. And you got to start somewhere. And like we start with education because I think that's the one that's just underserved the most.
Hmm.
But also for me, I'm not a student. So as much as I care about this, it's not personal problem anymore. But I travel with my very weak passport. So every time I'm at the border, I'm like, I gotta do something about this because this is ridiculous.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so eventually we see us doing that and yeah, because it's so global, we can be anywhere. And I find a lot of joy in kind of being in different places and trying to connect to local markets. But also, yeah, these both programs are amazing. You get not only equity free funding, but you get the mentorship. And maybe my favorite part is that you just get to meet other entrepreneurs. Um,
Hmm.
and everyone is really passionate about what they do. There's so many different verticals and ideas. So it's really nice to just have a community and to get inspired by other people.
You have a big online like presence and that's been growing steadily. And you also do mentoring. Can you just tell us a little briefly about like the consulting mentoring part of it?
Yeah, we are doing mentoring primarily because people ask.
Okay.
As much as we have the app and the app is great. If you really want to go to very selective university, you do feel like you want a little bit of more for personal help, where we can spend a lot of time with you, but also where we can give you more reassurance. Because
Hmm.
if AI tells you your essay is good, I think you'd be like, oh, is it? Like, do you say this to everybody?
Yeah.
So I noticed there's a lot of just like mental support almost that people are willing to work with us for.
Okay.
And so yeah, I do mentorship, but then we also have the counselor who's actually
Hmm.
primarily leading this counseling side of things. And another thing that's really good is that because we do this counseling, we work with students really closely. So we get to learn what they need and we get to make the app better. So it's almost like a cycle where people use the app, they're like, hey, I like it, I want more help, they can work with us. We work with them. We're like, oh, you seem to be stuck on this part of the application. Hey, let us make some AI tool for that. Because I think unless you do counseling, you are a bit detached from the process and it's very hard to really imagine what the student is going through. When you sit in the session for 45 minutes and the person is stuck on an essay topic, it really tells you a lot about what you can do.
Right.
And kind of the whole idea of the app was that it's trying to, in a way, replace what I do as a counselor, to be honest. And if at some point my job becomes obsolete, I will be happy about that. Uh, where like, hey, when you sit with students, this is kind of how you approach the questions. And if they're stuck, you try to do ABC. So we try to like put that into the app and like replicate that experience so
Mm.
that they can still get the guidance. But yeah, it's just very affordable. And so yeah, we try to do both sides.
And so anyone can download your app on both platforms, I'm assuming, Android,
Right.
Apple.
Actually, it's not, yeah, I always say app when people go to App Store, they can't find it. It's a web app, or I guess it's a website, but it's a web app because you can't write your essays on the phone. Like, guys, if you're watching, like, please don't write your essays on the phone. That's your notifications, like, this will never end up in a good state. So, yeah, it's app.borders.so. It's free. You can get coach recommendations, you could get activity reviews, you can get essay help, brainstorming. And in a couple of weeks, we will be supporting non-US applications too
Oh,
that we work
fantastic.
really hard on. So if you say, hey, I want to study history and this is my budget, these are my preferences, you would get recommendations, not just in the US, but also Netherlands is an English speaking program or in Japan. So that's the ultimate goal for this year.
Amazing. Well, I can hear the passion in your voice, and it's something that it's clearly a problem that has, gotten hold of you and made you go headfirst into this entrepreneurial journey, and you're doing a really great job of it. I'm looking forward to following your journey and seeing how far you progress. And obviously, you're helping thousands of people around the world. So that's incredible in itself. And hopefully, it does help them with their next stage of expanding their mindset because living abroad is a completely different experience than just researching about a country. You learn about the culture, you learn about different languages, different food, how people live. It isn't, I've lived in 4 different countries now, and it's the most invaluable experience I've ever had.
Right?
I'm sure for you living in Abu Dhabi for your university as well. So
Yeah.
hopefully more Uzbekistani people can do it. People from all these developing countries can as well, so they can enjoy. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Well, Veronica, it's been a really great discussion today. We have a closing tradition with the last guest left a question for you, and you'll leave a question for the next guest. Are you ready for your question? It's a
Let's
funny,
go.
it's a funny one. Your question is, if you could become any electronic device, what would you be?
Electronic device. That is a fun question. I'm trying to think like not what's my favorite device, but what would I be? Maybe like an AirTag
AirTag.
because I travel. I mean, I don't know why, but I feel like something that makes travel easier.
Okay.
Oh my God, you know, one of those like suitcases that are self-driving. I think that's so
That's
fun.
interesting. Yeah.
Travel and you can go anywhere and carry all your stuff. Yeah, something along those lines.
Cool. Interesting. Very, very good answer. Yeah, I love travel as well. And you being a borderless person and you've been there in Puerto Rico, very jealous, with nice weather. Absolutely. That's something that I think you're going to continue to do for the rest of your career. So that's amazing.
Yeah, but I also miss Japan. There's
Yeah,
something about Japan where you miss it every time you're out. You're like, where's my konbini? It's like,
I agree. Big time. I agree. All right. Now it's your turn to ask a question for the next guest.
Right. We've talked a lot about education and AI, so I would like to ask if you could, for a day, become a professor and you can teach anything to a young person, what would you teach and why?
Ooh, I love that question. I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, because there's so many things out there with AI, like you can learn anything, but there's some things that cannot be learned by AI right now. And I think
Yeah,
that has a lot to do with the, human to human interactions, physical things, obviously. So I would love to see their answer. That's a good one.
yeah,
Good
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. Me too.
Absolutely. So, Veronica, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, LinkedIn the best way or Instagram?
I'm kind of everywhere, but yeah, LinkedIn is good, and then on other socials, it's Veronica Lee. So Instagram, TikTok,
Okay.
Telegram, if anyone's on it.
Okay.
But you'll find me. It's literally anywhere.
I will add all those to the description below so they can get in touch with you and obviously check out your website, especially if somebody's looking to apply abroad.
Yeah, can I ask if you're a counselor in the US or in Japan? I would love to chat and I would love to see, what are your pain points because we might develop a solution for counselors because sometimes there's one counselor for 200 kids and they're ripping their hair out.
Hmm.
So if you're one of those people in education, I would just love to have a coffee chat with you. So please contact me.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today, Veronica. Thank you so much for your time and good
Thank you
luck
so
with
much
everything.
too.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Product Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps this channel grow. And if you are a product manager or a startup founder who wants to share your story or some of the struggles that you've gone through in your career, then definitely reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. And until next time, happy building, everyone.